Good morning, everybody. Welcome to IT Live. I'm Tex Homer. That is Paul Wadlington. And today we will discuss the winning formula in college football. First, head over to IT for our summer sale, 50% off. You will get the Ultimate Fan Bundle. What does that mean? That means you'll get our board, IT, On3, and Rivals all together. That's a lot of access, Paul. Plus, a full year of access to the Athletic.
That's almost too much access.
I know. I tried to tell him, I was like, are we sure we want to do this, guys?
I don't know if people can handle all that.
No, Shannon Terry said we have to give them this level of access. I said, okay.
All right. Okay.
Done. All right.
He's responsible for what happens after that.
Exactly. He'll regret the day of all this access. So, college football has changed a little bit, Paul, since you began your viewing. And we're going to discuss the major differences that have occurred. This is a series, I think, your magnum opus that'll come out eventually. It's too pure right now that we can't get it, but the O-line crisis, the wheels are turning up there. Ian's wanting to get involved. So I'm sure you'll see a whole book on this eventually at some point. That's another book you're going to have to write. But the first piece is the offensive line crisis is real.
Yeah, I mean, so think about last year. Coming into the season, Texas, LSU, Alabama, these are premier sort of blue chip programs, right? Who should be able to pick their people and pick their O-line and develop their O-line. And in the preseason, all three of them had highly evaluated offensive lines or highly projected offensive lines. So depending on what you read or publications, I'd say it's safe to say that everyone said these are three of the top 15, two of the top 10, or two of the top 5, depending on what you read, right? Alabama was seen as like clearly the best O-line in the country, if not top 5, right? And LSU and Texas were seen as very high quality. Didn't play out that way during the season. And all three O-lines struggled to displace people in the run game. All three O-lines struggled to protect the quarterback. Texas, the worst of the three in that regard. But Alabama had some bad moments. LSU had some bad moments protecting the quarterback. And in some big key games. Alabama was pretty decent in pass protection week to week. They had a couple of games where they just fell apart. Indiana being one of them. But also some other games where they got Ty Simpson hurt. So what the heck is going on? Why is this happening? And why is there this sort of larger sense that every team in college football is always scrambling to fix their O-line every year? I mean, Ohio State won the national title 2 years ago, and the whole year they're trying to fix the O-line. That was their big weakness going into the playoffs, and they managed to overcome it. Miami, interestingly, probably had the most sterling O-line play late in the year. And it makes sense. I mean, they have great talent there. Cristobal, for whatever his faults as a game day manager, tremendous developer of the O-line. And they have good taste there, and they have good resources. And they seem to have a knack for identifying high school recruits and who could be developed and who can't. Indiana had very good O-line play until the playoff. And then you started to see some cracks where two of their starters not quite.
Yeah, I was watching one of those very closely and was not impressed during the.
One of them was potentially in the portal for us, and everyone was sad when we didn't get him. And I was like, I don't think you watched Indiana.
Yeah, go watch him versus good teams. It wasn't doing great.
That's right. But Indiana managed to cover it up. Fernando Mendoza, the system, their run game kept people honest, right? You can't just tee off if you can actually run the ball. And they had 3 good O-line starters. That helped. And their 2 deficient starters were never as deficient as what we experienced at center and left guard. So it brings to mind a larger question of what's going on. And we're not going to be able to answer that here. But I do have some thoughts and some general things. And I'm still thinking of reasons of what's going on. But I think there's a difference in type of people that we're actually recruiting for the offensive line, for the modern offense in the passing game. I think there are less conversions of more athletic players to the O-line for whatever reason. And I think there's a couple of reasons, but back in the day, it was very common to take defensive linemen and convert them to O-line. And what you ended up with was a more athletic offensive lineman that you then had to teach the skills of O-line play, right? Same thing with tight ends. Teams would recruit extra tight ends in their recruiting classes. And these were not, 6'4", 210-pound willowy speedsters. It was the 6'4", 250-pound high school blocking tight end possession receiver guy. And you brought him in. You're like, yeah, we'll throw you the ball. Yeah, we like you as a tight end. And then when they arrive, they're like, hey, go to the offensive tackle room. Or, hey, go to the center room. That's where you're playing. And the player's like, what? And it's like, yeah, you're going to be 295 at the end of the year. You're not going to be 250 anymore. And then, there's a lot of examples of that. It's just not happening anymore. So have we lost patience for that sort of project? Have we lost the skill of O-line coaches to actually do those conversions and teach people? There's a lot going on, and it all kind of harkens back to something a former UT player who played in the NFL for a long time told me. He said, you got to realize at the end of the day, about half the O-line coaches are complete frauds. And I was like, what wow. What is that? What do you mean? And he's like, dude, they say this stuff. They can go to the clinic and say all the words, and they can talk about their drop step and here's what you do and here's how you do it. He's like, none of them, not none of them, but a good number of them, they're just saying these things and echoing sort of the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. They can't take individual players and fix them. They can't say, here's what this player's problem is. Let's fix it. And he said, when I got to the NFL, I had a long time, thankfully, legendary NFL coach in a minicamp fix something that was a big hitch in my pass pro that I'd gotten away with because I was talented and, playing in college. And he's like, had I not encountered that guy, I would have been out of the NFL in 2 years. And he said, some O-line never encountered that guy. And so they're out of the NFL in 2 years. And so it really made me pause. And he said, you got to realize there's an element of fake it till you make it in O-line coach. And he said, a lot of these guys can't fix or apply the teachings to different anthropometry or different bodies. You teach a 6'2", 300-pound guard with different leverages. You should be teaching them very differently and different techniques than a guy who's 6'6", 330. They're playing the same position, but they're doing it very differently because of how they're constructed. And he said, a lot of these O-line coaches are one size fits all. This is what I was taught in the clinic. This is what, this is what's the new thing that we're all doing. And he's like, dude, it doesn't work. And he didn't bring this up, but it kind of makes me also wonder if it goes with some of the hat on hat ideas of just hey, don't worry about moving guys. Just get a hat on a hat. We'll scheme up the run game. You don't need to get movement. Just screen, get in the way of people. And then we'll use smoke and mirrors to get the run game going. Doesn't always work against better D lines. You can get the hat on the hat, but if your hat starts moving backwards, I don't know if just get a hat on the hat is the answer.
So this is one thing in the training side of it. And if you watch, and even whenever I was playing offensive line, you would do your board drills or, dip under the metal ledge. And it's the assumption that, and you'll see it, right? They'll play another offensive lineman as the DT, and the other defensive tackle will just stand there and let you grab him and drive him. It's just not a realistic recreation of what occurs.
Have you ever watched Bullshido on YouTube?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So it's Aikido type stuff.
It's like choreographed martial arts.
The master grabs the guy's hand and turns it, and the guy goes, oh, and it's it's weird because before the UFC and before MMA, dude, it's almost like pro wrestling. People believe that stuff. Yeah. And it was obviously people who'd never been in a fight in their lives, right? Because real fights are messy and
dynamic
and they go to the ground. That's one of the big insights of MMA is whether you want it to go to the ground or not, often fights go to the ground, right? And so when you had mixed martial arts come out and the UFC come out, all of those bullshito strip mall black belt factories all over every city in America, they were existentially threatened because those instructors knew they couldn't convince their students anymore that they had a death touch, or that, doing these kata were like going to prepare them for a street fight with a guy who'd been in 50 street fights and they've been in none. Right. And so it's kind of like that, it's just, there's
you like perform blocking.
It's performance, and it's and you mentioned the duck walking, like, so I was just, when I played in high school, I was just at the transition of that, where the very exaggerated duck walk, I'm still not bought in on that. Like, I understand you need to keep your feet and have a wide base as an O lineman. The super exaggerated duck walk where you're kind of like mechanical, I think guys are actually trying to execute that in games, and it's not athletic. It doesn't work.
Well, the thing you talked about too is the difference of like 6'2" to 6'6" guy. Like, they all have different physical ability. They need to, whatever feels naturally athletic. Now, of course, they can't just stand tight, but if you make them overextend, now they're unathletic too. It's somewhere in that middle. They have to find their stand. The good coaches, all of them, like, whenever they take a young prospect, like they'll take a high schooler to show you, they're like, hey, sit down in your stance. And then he'll sit down in his stance, and then they'll just start pushing on different parts of his body.
Yeah.
Right. And then if he's not falling all over, then they're like, your stance is good. Yeah. But it's not, but there's no set width of feet or anything like that. It's wherever you can remain athletic and stable.
Well, even I've seen the new way, and I coached youth football, obviously, like tackle football, and with my son and his teammates, and had a lot of fun. But I was watching some coaching clinic stuff of like youth football for like best practices for O-line, and like the way they teach pulling now, I don't agree with it. I don't think it's right. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's not athletic. It's very mechanical. And it's like this hyper, and I understand that the athletes are different, and it's a different level of athleticism. So you've got to get depth when you pull and all that. Yeah. But it's very like mechanical, and like you're like taking 3 steps backwards before you pull, instead of like a lateral step, but giving ground. And it's like, dude, you're not athletic. If someone puts their hands on you while you're doing this, you're going to fall straight on your back. Like,
you hate the skip pull too.
I don't like it.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel, I understand why they teach it. And I understand, like, you got to kind of like find what's actually naturally athletic to people. And sometimes you do the exaggerated drill to inculcate. So the reason, like, we had the chutes with the iron thing to keep you low, and if you got pinned up against it, it was like miserable, right? Like, it was humiliating. It was just to remind you, like, stay low. You can actually get too low as an lineman where they just like drive you into the dirt, right?
Yeah.
Like,
do you think the size of the room, now keep in mind, everyone had these sizes of the room in the history of football, but I do feel once you get into those counting things where you're like 3 steps and then this, it's just so you can teach 12 people quickly. Because there is some level of this that I can't go to 12 different people and like, all right, what's your feel, man? So you end up getting you should, but I'm saying, so you end up getting this. Let's meet in the middle here. Everyone takes 3 steps.
Yeah.
I think it's a way to like boilerplate it more than like the individual teaching. And it should be different for a tackle and a guard and blah, blah, blah.
Well, and what's weird is there's a ton of time spent on like the skip pull and all that stuff. Yeah. And then there's not as much time spent on like, hey, never bend at the waist, or hey, never turn your shoulders. Like, more basic principles of O-line play, which is however you do your thing, just don't, when you're pass protecting, don't turn your shoulders ever. Like, because you're
stay square to the line.
Yeah, you stay square to the line because you're creating a pathway, right? And if all of you don't turn your shoulders, it's actually really hard for someone to just bull rush through, right? I mean, stuff like that, I feel like, is falling apart, like the most basic stuff. But then they're teaching these very intricate, weird pull techniques.
Niche things.
I feel like it's reversed. I feel like they should need to be like, hey, don't ever bend at the waist in a football field, or don't ever turn your shoulders. But it's more like, hey, let's practice our very esoteric skip pole drill over and over on like weird boards and all sorts of like stuff with exaggerated foot placement and all this. It's like, hey, dude, how about you just teach them not to turn their shoulders? Because I watched Texas's O-line do that all year last year.
They hip bended all the they are not hip bending's fine. You can bend a little bit at the hip, but it was that 90-degree angle, waist staying down, and then you're just totally unathletic. That's a big thing. Remember when I sent you and Ian that KJ Lacey threw that touchdown in the scrimmage?
Yeah.
And then I got mad because the defenders didn't do anything. They just went 3 steps forward and then let him throw it. And then, Ian's like, you're catastrophizing. And I think maybe on that individual instance, but that's what I'm talking about. It's like, what kind of rep was that? Like, no one's going to do that in game where KJ can just 1 step and then the defenders just stand up and let him throw it. I think there's a simulation issue. One, because I think they're cognizant of injury, almost to the point where it's too much, and you probably are actually encouraging injury because the speed of a real game is going to be so different that they might get hurt in it. But it's watch any O-line drill. It's your 9th string offensive lineman plays the DT. He just stands up, lets you block him. He doesn't try to shed you. He doesn't do anything weird. He doesn't gap exchange, which if you watch modern defense, they switch gaps all day. Yeah. I just don't think the simulation's great, and the speed of practice is not great. Maybe on Bloody Tuesday, it's, they're not showing clips of that and they're going super hard. Maybe they are. But even from like high school football, there was too big of a gap between what you're practicing versus a real defensive tackle that's athletic, mean, taught to switch gaps, taught every technique to break your hands, every technique to swim you, and you're not simulating that until you really get into a game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a really interesting idea and premise, and I don't pretend to have all the answers. I mean, obviously there are people who really know their craft, but man, I'll tell you, there's a reason really good O-line coaches are so coveted in the NFL and college. And certain coaches are like, I'm not taking this job unless I can convince so-and-so to come with me, right? Or, the one guy, the one lifetime assistant in New England who could tell like Bill Belichick, like, shut up, get out of my room, was Dante Scarnecchia, their longtime O-line coach. And the whole premise with Scarnecchia was, hey, we are not investing in the O-line. So we're going to give you a bunch of like 4th round and 6th round draft picks and some free agents, and you need to make an O-line out of it. And Scarnecchia is no problem. And he did.
But I think they can. I think that they can trick head coaches easier too. Like, I'm not even really talking about Flood here. I'm trying to give an example. Like, Sark fired wide receiver coaches, and if you watch Sark in practice, like, he's coaching wide receivers. He understands exactly what's supposed to happen there. Running back, he'll fire the running back coach. He knows what he wants to see from running backs. But offensive line it's a different world, and most head coaches and even offensive coordinators can't actually teach that position. So, and once again, I'm not calling out Flooding. I'm just trying to use a concrete example. But you can get those like charlatan offensive line coaches because I don't think anyone is there to check them. But like the offensive coordinators, they know if that receiver's messing up. So it's a little they know if you get a sack, but I don't think they know the technique is enough like they would the skill positions.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, I think they can look and say this looks bad. We're not doing our assignment. We're not doing our job, right? You have a bunch of free rushers. Why?
Yeah.
It's a very different conversation than the wide receiver coach and saying, how does this guy not know that when it's cover 2, he's supposed to break the route short? We've gone over this.
Right.
Have you not taught, are you not teaching him this? Like, what's going on? That's a very different conversation. And again, I haven't said the name Kyle Flood. I mean, the point is Texas, LSU, and Alabama, 3 programs that should have their choice of O-line recruits and certainly don't lack for facilities or anything else. They all failed miserably on the O-line when all 3 had big expectations in the preseason.
Well, and also in college football, the greatest gift ever, there's no draft. You know what kind of advantage that is, that you can select who you want from the nation? Like, that's it should almost never happen. That's the biggest advantage in sports is like the pool is everyone. So it's not like you're like, man, we got stuck with this guy. It's like, well, if you end up with that guy, then it's just you didn't do good. You had nine other options.
Well, that's the other part is there's an evaluative piece here. So if you're an O-line coach and you're like, yeah, that guy busted. Yeah, he's not good. It was like, hey, you picked him.
Right.
There's this guy wasn't assigned to you.
Right.
You didn't get him in a it's not a little league draft where you just get handed a team, right?
Yep.
I mean, when I coach flag football, I don't get to pick any of the kids. I just
Yep.
show up and two of them like have their freaking two left shoes on the first day of class. So yeah, I mean, that's the other part is maybe you're not a great teacher or maybe you're not some great innovator. What if you just have a great eye for talent?
Yep.
Then, man, I think a lot of your issues are addressed just because these kids kind of figure it out athletically on the fly. But that's another part too, is the overall athleticism of O-line and what it there's always been a disparity between offensive line and defensive line and athleticism. So the least athletic defensive lineman in a college football room is one of the most athletic offensive linemen if you have him switch rooms. Okay. Yep. So they used to do that. Like, let's take our fourth string defensive tackle and dude, this guy actually has the makings of a really good guard. Like he could be an all conference guard. So let's sell him on that. Let's take that tight end. Let's, famously take a former quarterback in Lane Johnson and make him an all-star tackle with the help of some supplements.
He's so good.
He is good.
Dude, he's good.
The other thing too, and it jibes with an article someone surfaced for me saying, man, you were really right on this one, but it was Connor Williams. There was a big stink about taking Connor Williams because he's a former tight end in high school. He was a 3-star, 6'5", 260 as a junior. And I watched his tape and wrote an article up about him on Bark and Carnival. And I was like, hey, all this consternation about him is stupid. This guy's incredibly athletic. Putting weight on him is not going to be a problem. He's got a big frame. This guy is not only going to be good, he's going to be an all-conference player for us. He's excellent. Like, all this hand-wringing about him is stupid. You're a moron. Like, stop. Connor Williams, of course, started for us as a true freshman, blah, blah, blah. We're not doing that anymore. Nobody's doing that anymore. It has to be like ready-made size. And guess what? It's a running joke that I kind of have of like, he's college ready. He's 6'6", 330 and carrying terrible weight, and he's got 45% body fat. He's college ready. And it's like, no, he's not.
Is it the money?
He's a big, fat, unathletic kid.
Like, no one's willing to speculate right now with the price tags. Do you think that's what it is? But also, you can still get offensive line for like $4.
But yeah, why wouldn't you go get a really athletic, undersized kid and then put weight on him? Like, that's the easier thing to do. It's much harder to take a big college-ready size guy and give him great feet and coordination and motor.
Correct.
Like, that's hard.
Some of it's the rarity. It's the rarity of the position. We had some players recently that had ready-made size that I saw in a camp and was horrified and was like, please do not offer them. They offered them 2 days later.
Yeah.
But because I was like, it's just size. Their feet are slow. And some of the problem is there's just not a lot of 6'6", 280 plus human beings that exist. So there's a rarity problem to where you end up taking guys that you shouldn't because they fit a frame requirement because there's not a lot of other options, or maybe there's not a lot of other guys in Texas or in Central Texas or whatever. But I think the scarcity it's a scarcity mindset a little bit there too, where they just jump to grab guys just because they're already 6'7", 330.
But so are you not confident from a developmental and strength and conditioning perspective that you could take an athletic 6'5", 270-pound guy with a good frame? I'm not talking about like a string bean.
Yeah. But
6'5", 270 is not small by any reasonable standard, okay? And he's a high school kid. You don't think you can get him up to 305? Like, what? Like, I don't get it. So why is that stopped? Or at least at the high major level. Now, it's still happening at lower levels of sport because of necessity. But why aren't you prizing and valuing motor, coordination, feet, aggression, quickness? And why don't you have the confidence that you can add strength and size?
I'm not doing it, Paul. It's not me, dude.
I want you to explain it, Connor.
I'm one with you, man.
All right.
But no, that's where I think the timeline has gotten shortened, and there's money. And I think at the top of the sport, you have all the pressure to win now. I think all those three factors are dangerous for the top of the sport.
Yeah.
They're not forced to play the long game. Most teams are. They have to project just by the nature.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the problem. And when we talk about O-line scarcity of size, amongst the ones that are agreeably good offensive linemen, there's not that many. And they're going to Georgia and they're going to Texas and they're going to A&M. And if you don't take his commitment, A&M's going to take his commitment. And so it's like there's all this kind of like psychological pressure too for the top 10 teams to do this weird stuff or this short-sighted approach on offensive line.
You mentioned Georgia and Texas and all that, but here's the interesting thing, Connor. We have different standards of athleticism at Texas for our tackles versus our interior offensive linemen.
Yeah.
Georgia does not. I mean, Georgia basically, like, go look at their guard centers. They look a certain way that our guys do not, broadly speaking. Whereas our tackles, like you see Kelvin Banks or Gooseby, you're like, that guy's put together. Like, wow. Go look at some of Georgia's interior offensive linemen. They're jacked and tanned. Like they look a certain way that maybe our guys do not. And I'll just leave it at that. So why do we have different standards of athleticism and sort of like how guys are put together? It's kind of interesting. I don't know.
We'll leave you on that cliffhanger here.
Yeah.
Guys, we got something cool going on. I want to tell you about something cool if you're a Longhorn fan. It's an authentic custom game ball from Big Game Football Factory. That's the largest American-owned football factory, handcrafted right here in Dallas, Texas. The DFW is also known to be the best metroplex in Texas. It's just a fact. And this would make this one different, guys. It's not a replica. It's not like a souvenir shop grab. This is the football that's built to the exact specs Texas football requested. If you saw on Twitter today, Texas made a post. It's this football. Playoff leather, pebbled lace, overlay stripe, the whole thing. And the details are unique. It's got the iconic Script Texas logo. You can see that down below. And there's an actual image of Bevo's hair embedded right inside the Nike swoosh. If you look in there, you can see it. So that's a detail only a true Longhorn fan is going to appreciate. And every football is officially licensed by Texas Athletics and comes with a certificate of authenticity. So it's a nice item for you to have. And this is probably the closest most fans will ever get to holding the exact football Texas uses on Saturday. It's a hell of a display piece for your office, your fan cave, your collection, wherever you want to show it off. It's a really cool thing. And you can get your very own at biggameusa.com, or you can just use the link in the description down below. It's a nice looking football, Paul.
Yeah, that is. Hey, go ahead and send me a couple.
Okay, yeah, no problem. They're on the way. All right, are you ready to move on from O-line? I feel like we're going to end up doing the whole show on O-line.
Yeah, we're going to do deep dives on this.
Yeah.
And Ian will have a bunch of takes that are wrong, and then I'll correct him.
That's how it always goes.
That's how it goes.
All right, the Veer and Shoot revival.
Speaking of O-line, so a lot of people think the Veer and Shoot, now it's going to be 4 SEC offenses are going to be running the Veer and Shoot this year. They're like, oh, they're trying to sell tickets. It's a flashy offense. They want to put up points, blah, blah, blah. No, they are trying to mitigate their O-line deficiencies. That's what this is about. And it's also about taking advantage of the dual threat quarterback and reincorporating them in a different mode. So we used to use the dual threat quarterback in sort of that spread option sort of mold, the Michael Bishop mold, Vince Young. I mean, you guys probably heard of him. Spread option, that stuff is good. Now the next step is like the Veer and Shoot, which is like, let's really spread people out. Let's get a big, strong-armed, athletic kid who's not very polished, but he's good at like chunking a ball deep and making predetermined reads that the offense dictates. And then let's pair his legs within this offense that was originally designed to be for a passer, right? The veer and shoot under Art Briles, they accidentally stumbled into, oh, if we put Robert Griffin III into this offense, it takes on dimensionality we had not actually even envisioned. And now we've got all sorts of power game and read, and like our quarterback is like adding other dimensions with his legs, that all of our extreme alignment and our deep ball stuff, dude, that defense is just cooked.
That alley is wide open for a quarterback pool.
I mean, you know about wide open alleys, Connor. But
yeah, for sure.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing that also takes pressure off your O-line, because the veer and shoot really minimizes your need to have like complete pro perfect O-lines, right? You can get by with like 5 big dudes with some attitude, and that's about it. And they can have slow feet and maybe not, move great and all that. But you put a light box in there, they'll lean on you, and you could just hand the ball off, or the quarterback can keep it, and suddenly you're getting gouged. But you didn't have to go get a bunch of perfect O-line and compete with Texas, Georgia, and Notre Dame for the elite of the elite. You could just go get 5 big boys of little attitude. And so TCU made it to the national title game, as Ian observed, starting 5 guards, basically, because they were able to stretch the field and make it so big, right? The veer and shoot is basically addressing that conundrum. And it's not a surprise that it's programs like South Carolina, Mississippi State, things like that, adopting that offense, because they are able to access the highly athletic quarterback. Dual threat quarterbacks are a dime a dozen now, because people kind of, I was going to use Arch Manning as an example, but he's actually a dual threat accidentally, right? But Arch Manning he's going to go to the NFL and be a more traditional passer. Is that fair?
I don't know. His favorite player is Josh Allen, which made me worried as soon as he said it.
Okay, well, I think he likes Josh Allen because he's charismatic.
It's safe to say he's a pass-first quarterback.
Yes. But, it's easier to find these just big athletic guys who aren't as polished. And they're all over. Lenore Sellers, Mississippi State, Kamario Taylor. They're going to
Kamario Taylor, yeah.
Most of the SEC is going to be starting an athletic quarterback this year. So that's something to look for. The veer and shoot is an attempt to obviate and mitigate your need to have an elite O-line. And you don't even need super complete receivers. You just need kind of like some dudes who can run fast. That's about it.
Can make one of 2 decisions.
Yeah. Do I stop or do I run? Do I run the fade?
Yeah.
So I just think that proliferation is very interesting and very telling, because it's also tied to money, because the very best offensive tackles, as we know now, command a premium. And so do we want to pay for guys, if you're South Carolina, who are going to sit for 2 years? Or do we want to go get the 3-star from South Carolina, who always grew up wanting to play for the Gamecocks, and he's just a big, strong kid with some attitude, but not very he's the number 120th ranked offensive lineman in the country, not the 3rd ranked guy. So we can pay that dude $75,000. We're not paying him $2.2 million. So we can field a competitive roster, because we're adopting a little bit of a contrarian approach in what our personnel are fitted to that offense. So that's the reason this is happening. It's not just about selling tickets or being entertaining.
That's a nice byproduct, though, right? That's a win-win.
It is a byproduct, and the hope is that you will be ultimately entertaining. But hey, if you could be in the SEC and go 10-2 and you're winning games 17-13, fans will take that too. Right?
It's also the worst offense if you suck, because it's like
worse if you suck. Yes.
It's instant 3 and out. Like when it works, man, it really works. And then whenever you get it solved, it can do absolutely nothing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like any extreme offense is the worst offense if it sucks.
Yeah.
But we say that. Teams that bring in so-called the pro style offense of like, I want to run an NFL offense, they really suck too at the college level.
Yeah.
Most of the time, the coordinators
maybe I'm being unfair to veer and shoot, and I'm really just talking about tempo. But most teams pair tempo with the veer and shoot. So when a tempo
that's the better observation. That's a better refinement of what you're saying. It's that like, and they say in the military, never hurry to your death.
Yeah.
Like you don't just sprint somewhere in the middle of a firefight, like
Yep.
kind of look around and like, as John Wooden said, be quick, but don't hurry. Right.
Yep.
I think that's when you suck, it's hard to go tempo because
Dude. Because your defense is like, oh my God.
It could be 21-0 at the end of the first quarter real quick.
Exactly. And you might be on the field legitimately for a minute and a half.
Yes.
It's tempo is just normally accompanied with beer and shoot. So
yeah,
you see it often where when it's not working, man, they're not even on the field to try. Quarterback play.
Yeah,
so dude, what a miss last year. I was excited about Lagway. I just assumed I wasn't a big Nussmeier watcher. I assumed he'd be good there. Sellers, I didn't really know. I'm weary of the fun quarterback. I'm so like boring and strict with quarterbacks. So I wasn't surprised there, but dude, like all the quarterbacks kind of unanimously that people were hyping last year just didn't go well. Arch didn't even go well in the beginning. It was pretty wild.
Yeah, I mean, so kind of like the offensive lines that went over like a lead balloon. Several very hyped quarterbacks in the preseason did not have good seasons. Arch salvaged his, which was a testament to his talent. But Lenore Sellers had a horrific year. John Mateer had a tough year. Nussmeier was talked about as 1-1. Remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
He is not 1-1. So a bunch of guys really talked up, didn't come through, right? And then you have a Division II, 6-foot-tall guy from Ferris State lead Ole Miss to the greatest season in school history, and they led him to the Final Four, right? And Ole Miss was a possession away from playing for the national title. I mean, that's pretty heady stuff. So what the heck is going on there? And what's going on with quarterback play? And my thought is, broadly speaking, quarterbacks at the college level, even talented ones, are still subject to their environment. Like in the NFL, the very best quarterbacks, a very common model now in the NFL is, oh, you're an elite quarterback? Great. What we're going to do, it's almost counterintuitive. We're going to give you terrible skill players that are cheap, a good offensive line, and then we're going to spend money on defense.
And we're going to draft infrastructure.
Because you're an elite quarterback, you need to make everyone better, and you'll make our offense functional. And then we'll have all the infrastructure to be a good team, and we'll go deep in the playoffs every year. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, that's the model for the Bills. That was the model for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay, which he was not a big fan of.
That's why he left.
But it is a very viable model, which says, hey, hotshot, quarterback, elevate everyone. And the NFL, when you're 25 years old, you can. And because even bottom quartile NFL skill talent is NFL skill talent. Correct. Right? College, it's kind of we kind of learned. You tell Arch Manning, hey, elevate us. We'll put the game on your hands, on your shoulders. You get the Florida game, where he actually plays very well, but to the, I think, snap reactionary observer, it's like he sucks. This is terrible, right? But they're not actually seeing what's happening, right?
To be fair, they're not seeing also that the angle of the end zone all 22. Like,
yes,
some of that stuff fans literally can't see, so I can't knock them. But Arch made some of his best plays of the season, maybe the best play of the season versus Florida.
Yes, and I got to say, instinctively, in the passion of a game, you blame the quarterback for stuff that's not his fault. And so you'll have two guys instantly in his face as he's getting the ball in the shotgun snap. And he gets sacked as he kind of like, and you go, God, get the ball out, idiot.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
and you can't even see the receivers that are 90 yards downfield and completely covered.
Had he got the ball out, it's a pick six.
Yeah.
So no, don't get the ball out, idiot. But in the passion, in the moment, you're like, dude, like you blame the quarterback for everything. And so,
dude, I'm guilty of it. I'm guilty of it live too, man. Like
I'm not because I'm an educated football
yeah,
fan.
yeah, yes, exactly. You would never make that mistake, but I sometimes do.
Here's the thing that Texas fans, not to be all pro Soonery here, a lot of Texas fans are like, LOL, John Mateer. Dude, go watch the all 22 of Mateer. Go watch the tape. That guy is literally being asked to support a horrendous supporting cast last year. So
horrendous.
A lot of the things that you're attributing to Mateer, and he's not perfect by any means, it was stuff failing around him. And he's just trying his best to one-man gang it. And I mean, outside of Isaiah Satania, they were not a passing grade in most of the areas of their offensive football team.
Their tight ends could not block. So even when they kept him in the formation, it was just a way to take away a receiving threat from him.
I mean,
the running backs couldn't do much. It was
he and I were crying, laughing, dissecting the OU, offense, watching their tight ends. I mean, in the OU Texas game, Izina Umeozulu grabbed one of their tight ends and threw him into the running back.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, don't be surprised when OU looks a lot better on offense this year because they elevated everything. And I think John Mateer is going to look a lot better. So we have a tendency to blame the quarterback for everything. But then when you do have the opportunity to do a deeper dive, you'll see everything's falling around him. In the NFL, there's mechanisms and a level of play that a really good quarterback has achieved where they can still get it done, right? College, I'm very suspicious of that idea because I've seen a lot of good quarterbacks in college brought down by a weak supporting cast or a weak offensive coordinator.
Yeah, I totally agree. Well, here's my take on Mateer. He actually elevated a bad offense last year, but he's in the middle for me. I think he'll hold back an elite offense.
Yes, I agree.
And so it's like there's a little bit of Marcel Reed there that like once it gets to the top of it, I think Mateer is going to have a ton of success in that middle to good range. I think that's a sweet spot. But if you gave him all the weapons versus the best team, I think he would actually become the limiter on that offense. Make dumb throws, run when you're not supposed to, that kind of stuff.
Well, there's a parallel to that, which is when you go and get a mortgage or you're working with a guy to go buy a house or refi your house, you might have flawless credit, great income, perfect history, and you give him all the tools to get you the best possible deal. Gabe is going to deliver. You give him those components, he's going to knock it out of the park. Here's the other thing. Sometimes your credit's not perfect. Sometimes things are a little checkered. Sometimes there's some complexity. I don't know if you know this, Connor, but from a sort of evaluative standpoint of doing a mortgage, they're much harder on like an entrepreneur who's got $1 million business and can prove it than a government employee with a W-2 making $90,000 a year. That is like preferable. That government employee is preferable underwriting to the average lender because it's like predictable. Whereas if you own a small business and you're killing it, they're like, that's unpredictable. Ooh, this is scary. Those guys like struggle to get mortgages at good rates. Gabe works, he solves those problems all the time. He's freaking phenomenal. So whether you've got all the tools and he's just going to go in there and kill it and get you an amazing deal, or whether you need a little help structuring stuff, Gabe is the man. That's a guy who can do it all. This is the Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen model of elevate everybody else. That's Gabe Winslow. 832-557-1095. That's 832-557-1095.
Thank you, Gabe. My computer, man, has been killing me the past 2 days. Once we get like halfway into a live, it slows down and I just see everything in frames. And so I just have to rely on the audio of what you're saying. So that's why it's and it freezes up when I try to click to my overlays, man. That's driving me nuts. All right.
I think you need to get off dial-up.
That's true. All right. Are we good on quarterback?
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the defense. So I'm glad this is something that I started bitching about, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, the defense wins championships model, What we truly learned, if you look at FEI, is that elite teams win championships. They have great offenses and great defenses. That's really the true answer. But even beyond that, the offense for a while has been of more value than the defense. It's just the fact of it. And Paul points that out here.
So if you want to go 9-3 and be a good, respectable, winning football team, in the fact is, and I've done the research every year and it still holds, you would rather have a great offense and a bad defense than a great defense and a bad offense.
Right.
100%.
Yep.
Now, if you aspire to be something more than 9-3 and you want to go 15-1 and win it all, as Texas does, you probably better be top 10 in both. But it does seem that you're more likely to be able to get by with above average defense and a great offense than vice versa. So very interesting. And I think what is also interesting is, although advanced statistics, and why you and I prefer them over like counting stats, is it's accounting for the quality of your opponent. It's accounting for the context of your opponent. It can't fully do so. So blowing out Joe average FBS team, say Maryland, is still substantively different than playing 2022 Georgia's defense. Even when you adjust statistically for opponents and common opponents, because you're not just playing 2022 Georgia's D, you're getting their best shot, right? You're getting the best version of it. You're getting the highly game plan version. So, when Texas fans to this day, despite every article I've written and every deep dive we've done and everything, Homer, they still think Georgia is is a blitzing defense.
Right. Because
of what they did to us. Right.
Yep.
And you try to tell them no. They had specific game plans for us. And also they didn't blitz that much. They did stuff with alignment. But Texas fans, they tend to think the universe is like them playing us, and that's how they do stuff.
Or it's simulated. So like the linebacker blitzed, meaning he moved forward, but the end dropped. Still only 4 guys came. It's just they just switch stuff around, but it feels and looks like a blitz in the moment.
Yep. And so in other words, we got the highly game planned best version of Georgia. And that's still different in kind than your ability to succeed against generic mid-tier FBS team. So that's, advanced statistics do a lot to account for that stuff. Still can't account for all of it. And so what we're realizing is you need to have a good defense, but it needs to be good contextually and situationally. So do you get stops? And so yards, who cares?
Yep.
Like, do you get people off the field and do you make them kick field goals instead of getting touchdowns? And that's really the key, because a lot of people get very excited about we led the NCAA in sacks. You know who led the Big 12 in sacks? A bunch of crappy Charlie Strong defenses, where we would have 6 sacks in a game and give up 41 points. And people are like, we got 6 sacks. And it's like, yeah, and they freaking lit us up.
Yeah, because they're going for 41 points. They're they're taking shots at you. They're giving you sacks.
That's right. And so, yeah, I mean, if teams are converting 3rd and 17 on you, you're de facto not a good defense. I don't care what you say.
It's all red zone and 3rd down.
That's it.
I would never look at a yardage metric. Do we even include them in season? I think I do include them at the bottom or something, but those are just my stats that I know people are common with, but I would never even look at that stat. They can do whatever they want between the 20s.
Ryan Nelson brought up an interesting point. He said the last team not to have that was Alabama 2020 and LSU 2019. They had good defense, all-time great offenses. Yeah. I agree with you on Alabama. I think you're wrong on LSU, Ryan. LSU's defense by the end of that year was excellent. Very good. And it didn't always seem that way because they were playing elite offenses. But actually, if you go back and watch their playoff run and when they played the good teams at the end of the year, they were really good on defense.
Or their FEI never caught up, right? Like the FEI got lowered in the early part of the season, and by the time they went to a better tier, it still was a lagging indicator, maybe.
Well, we all remember that LSU team because we obviously played them, and Sam Ehlinger lit them up, right? But had we played that LSU defense later in the year, it would not have gone that way.
So this is Chris Martinez says, as my slow computer as I try to click this. He said, like, Ohio State stopping us whenever it matters. So that was something that Paul keyed in on great immediately. He was keyed in on the offensive line. I had already started my campaign against the running back room at that point. And it was the argument always that we got was Caleb Downs is omnipresent and godlike. Therefore, what do you expect? And then also we went for, 5.1 yards per carry or whatever. Yeah. It's like, it didn't matter. They were letting us run. They were letting us do that between the 20s. When it counted, Texas could not score or get the important down. You got to win the moments on defense. It's not just about between the 20 stuff.
Well, so that is really what Bill Belichick brought to the NFL. Because before that, great defense was very much tied to personnel and like an innovative scheme. So Chicago's 46 defense, huge deal in 1985, right? Within 2 or 3 years, it's out of the league. Like, it's done because people figured it out, right?
Yep.
The next year, the Giants had an almost equally dominant defense in 1986, running zone and like a traditional 3-4, like 4 250-pound linebackers. Helps to have Lawrence Taylor, but so there's a lot of ways to skin the cat, but it was always personnel, having elite personnel, and then kind of an innovative scheme, like a little tweak. Belichick's insight was, hey, let's just get good enough players. And then on certain key leverage moments, 3rd and 2 on our 40-yard line and the game's tied. Let's make everything about getting a stop there and not really care about whatever else. Like the rest is just window dressing.
Yeah.
And that seems like kind of obvious now in hindsight, but that's not what the approach was to football. And, like people still now will be like, on passing downs, we need to put in this player. On passing downs?
They're all passing downs.
We're all passing downs now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like there's no 1st and 10 is a passing down. 2nd and 2 is a passing down. 2nd and 14 is a passing down.
3rd and 1 is because they know you're anticipating the run and now they're going to pass.
Well, and ironically, paradoxically, 3rd and 6 is now kind of a clever running down.
Yeah, but it's
how many times has Sark converted 3rd and 6 doing a little quick handoff and the guy gets 9 and everyone's like, oh, that was smart. That was good.
That's a diminishing result. It's the same thing. You know how now everyone knows the shot is coming on a turnover? Like everyone is you take your fade as soon as you get the ball.
Yep.
Well, when everyone knows that, it doesn't work anymore. And so now it doesn't. So that's what I worry about too, is just like you said, the defenses get figured out. There's things that become so common as a sneaky rundown that just wait 2 years and then everyone anticipates it. They do that all the time.
Here's the ultimate sneaky. Here's the hipster 3rd and 9 call. You run outside zone to the short side of the field, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know how people always freak out when people run like a sweep to the short side of the field?
Yeah.
The reason they're doing that is because that defense had been slanting.
Correct.
To the wide side. So you're trying to catch them in the slant and it goes, but when it doesn't go, you just look like an idiot. Like what are you doing?
Dude, I wouldn't even
slant into the sideline.
I would never run a draw play ever as a coach. I hate them. And the problem is then Mendoza scores on one and now everyone thinks it's a valid play. I hate draws, dude. I think they absolutely suck. I think they don't work. I think they work at the same rate that any play would work in that situation. And that's where it tricks people. But it's like, it's the draw as the sneaky run too. I hate the play. I would delete it. I would make it illegal.
Well, here's the funny thing. The thing that characterized Texas defensive deficiencies pre-Sark.
Yep.
Was always people's ability to run a quarterback draw at a time.
Even with PK in the red zone, it would be a draw that we get.
Yeah.
Because
you're like, dude, they're 5 wide. Dude, it's a freaking quarterback draw, PK.
It's so obvious. That's the thing, too, is like you cannot subtly – and no, the problem is it still works, and it works in outsized impact, right? Like
Yeah.
it might legitimately work well for you like once or twice on the year. But everyone will remember that once or twice it worked, therefore it's a great play. But like 99% of the time, it just gets stuffed immediately. And it should be so obvious for coordinators.
Well, I mean, that whole OU game plan with Dylan Gabriel, right? When they beat us, that was a lot of quarterback run, just basically against light boxes. They would spread us out because they knew they would get 5 in the box, right? And then Dylan Gabriel would take off running, and
I love quarterback run. I hate the draw action.
Interesting.
Yeah, because I just don't think it even works.
You would have died, Connor. So back, this is like, when I was a kid, but when Eric Metcalf was here, when we had like pretty terrible offenses, but he was like the sole superstar, we would literally run draws like every 3rd and 10 and just pray to like hit one. And
I don't even think the reaction mechanism of it works because it's often so like if you did a draw where you legit waited 3 seconds with the ball and took off, I would respect it. But no one does that. They just stop. They just stop for a second and then they do the draw. The defensive line can read that. And like you're not even giving them the time to be tricked.
Well, it's not even the read. Like there's the old adage of like stop the run on the way to the quarterback. Right.
Yeah. Like they're in lanes.
But yeah, I mean, like if you're destroying the guard in front of you, you're still going to tackle the running back in the backfield. You're not going to suddenly be like, oh, it's a draw. I'm confused.
Yeah.
You're going to be like, oh, cool. They're running right at me. Cool. I'm going to destroy this.
That's exactly. It doesn't make sense, dude. If you're going to do the draw, like you legit have to wait. Like you need to scan to your 3rd read and then run the draw. But they just do this 2 seconds and then they are not even 2 seconds. That and it just doesn't make sense. Anyways, we'll continue with this episode. Any final thoughts on the new model of defense, which is just like win the moments, be stable. But you say here, like Muschamp can be great. There's still going to be a situation where they put 35 on us. It's just like unavoidable.
So I think everyone agrees those Georgia defenses, 2022, 2023, were kind of all-timers, right?
Yeah.
To get to the national title game, they had to beat Ohio State in a shootout. Ohio State lit them up, put them on fire.
Right, yeah.
Stetson Bennett had to throw for 398 and I think 5 touchdowns for them to win that game. Okay. They were down, 38-24 going into the 4th quarter? They got lit up.
Yeah.
On the other side of the bracket, Michigan and TCU played a game where the score was 51-45 final, and they totaled over 1,000 yards, right?
Yeah.
If you play enough games against good teams, your defense will get lit up by somebody. So you better outscore them or you better take the L, right? And so that's something that's different of, and it's funny too, because you go it's so cyclical football, but the Texas football I grew up with as like a little kid was Neanderthal football. Super tough, rugged defense, run the ball, throwing the balls for sissies, I distinctly remember winning games 13-9 on like a block punt or like getting to 16, on 3 field goals and a touchdown. And you'd be like, all right, we're going to win. We got 16 points. We're good. Like that football's done. And back then your defense could very realistically go out and play Barry Switzer's 45 points a game wishbone, and you'd hold them like 180 yards and they'd have 4 turnovers, right? And you'd win the game 13-12. That's just not a thing anymore. Like you're just not going to encounter that with really good teams. So I'm not saying to give up on defense or having great defense. I'm just saying the rule set of football, the skill sets of football dramatically favor the offense. If we had Jet Bush and Drew Kelson on here, they'd both be like, amen. Exactly. It's not fair. It's just the nature of the beast.
Everyone, I want you to head over to Inside Texas for the summer sale, which is 50% off. And you'll get IT, On3, and Rivals all together, plus a full year of access to the Athletic. Click that link down below. Also, click that link down below and get your football. That's going to be awesome stuff. Everyone stay locked in. We had a commitment this morning. It's a big week for recruits, so stay locked in there, and we will see you guys later.